we said our first, so we're going to use some identifiers, because we're going to look at scriptures that we use to identify the Antichrist, and we said the Antichrist has to be a Jew. And the first reason, I'm just repeating because I hadn't started recording yet. And what was the first reason why we said he has to be a Jew? Anybody?
Because his father's, it was, right?
Well, it was because the Jews rejected the true Messiah.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when we understand that, then we understand that, well, the first thing that we have to have in mind concerning an Antichrist is that he has to be accepted by the Jewish people as their Messiah.
Right.
Can you imagine the Jews thinking that King Charles is the Antichrist?
Mm-hmm.
No, or Trump. Oh, he's a Messiah, but not the Jewish Messiah, right? And
He needs a Cyrus.
yeah, they honor
He's
him
a Cyrus,
as the
right?
Gentile Messiah that is helping the Jews accomplish their goals. Like Cyrus sent the Israelites, some Jews back to their land to build a temple. And now they have labeled this to Trump the same way. To say that he is a Cyrus, right? And they even got I think they even got a panel in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv. They got Trump, the Cyrus of the modern days, of our days. And I don't have a picture. I may look for one a little bit. It won't show on the recording, okay? And then we said, well, another thing, Jesus speaking to the Jews, he said this here in John 5, chapter 43. Oh, just a minute, my mouse is not working the best. But he says, I have come in my Father's name, yet you don't accept me. If someone else comes in his own name, you will accept him. Well, that's the reason why there is going to be an Antichrist, a false Christ. Really, that's basically what the Antichrist, we'll talk about this maybe a little bit too. The word Antichrist for an individual, for one person, is only used once in the New Testament, and it looked like it was a word that was created in the latter part of the writings of the apostle. It was John that used it once, so it's probably a word that was created from their understanding of prophecy, right? So anyways, because I'm saying this because I was thinking about people who are trying to spiritualize everything, and they say, oh, the Antichrist is a spirit, or the Antichrist is this, the Antichrist is your thoughts, the Antichrist is all kinds of, but it does speak in here. And there was a brother who had asked me the question. He said, where does it say anywhere in the Bible that the Antichrist is a man? Well, here's the verse, John 5:43. Where it says, you're not receiving me because, I came in my Father's name, but you're going to receive another one that comes in his own name. So that means a man, right? It's not, it's not just a spirit. And someone else who's going to say that the Antichrist is just a spirit. Well, that would mean that to be in opposite to Christ, that would mean that Christ had to be a spirit. You see what I'm saying? Do you understand? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if the Antichrist is not a man, then the real Christ was not a man. So it's a deception again, that comes. So, all right. So then we wanted to use another, example, to identify, to say why we were talking about, okay, then we said, what is the next thing that we want to look at? And we talked about people who think, ask the question, well, how many people think Trump is the Antichrist, right? Well, that we know it cannot be because he's not a Jewish. He's not a Israeli born. Well, born in the Jerusalem area. And that's another scripture we'll look at. And then Sister Teresa, about the fact that many are thinking that it could be Jared Kushner. And I asked the question, well, why Jared Kushner does not qualify as the Antichrist? Okay, and a good point, Sister Teresa. Well, she said, well, stout. One of the description of the Antichrist is that his look, his appearance, his physical appearance, he's going to be more stout than his fellows, and then we'll look at that verse in a little bit. But that's a secondary identifier. But there's a primary identifier. And I was asking if anybody could think of what would be the first thing we need to look at that after we've identified that the Antichrist must be a Jew. What is the next thing we need to look at? What kind of Jew? Just because somebody is Jewish, and because he's got lots of money or influence, that does not necessarily.
The lineage, maybe?
A what?
Could it be the lineage? Bloodline.
Well, no, that's still being a Jew, right?
Okay.
It's a position.
Oh, he's got to be in politics, right?
Yeah, and this is where the verse says, I'll go back to John, let's see here, not John, but to, right here, Daniel 7, right there, okay. 2 verse, this is, I said there was the 4 beasts, which are 4 different imperial kingdoms, but we'll go down here. And Daniel saw all these. Let's read verse 7 and 8. I'll just maybe put it. Is this big enough? Can you guys read it? Can you see it? Still?
I can.
Okay.
Yes.
And if I put it down just a little bit, so it's all, is that okay? Like this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
That's Daniel chapter 7, verses 7 and 8. Let's read that.
While I was watching in the night visions, a 4th beast appeared, frightening and dreadful and incredibly strong, with large iron teeth. It devoured and crushed, and it trampled with its feet whatever was left. It was different from all the beasts before it, and it had 10 horns. While I was considering the horns, suddenly another horn, a little one, came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. There were eyes in this horn like a man's, and had a mouth that spoke arrogantly.
All right. So, who understands this passage? What does this passage reveal to us? Of course, we need understanding. We see that, let's say, for example, in verse 7, a beast, a 4th beast, the end time government, that is for an angel full, incredibly strong, with large iron teeth, that devoured and crushed and trampled with its feet whatever was left, and it was different from all the beasts before it, and it had 10 horns. What does that tell us, the 10 horns?
He had a kingdom.
Right, it's talking about, and it's the point here is what I'm saying is the meaning of a horn in prophecy. I think most of us, we know it, just maybe not thinking about it, but this is so important. What does a horn mean in prophecy?
A ruler?
A ruler?
Mm-hmm.
Right, yes.
Right.
A leader of a nation, right?
Yeah.
Political leader, a king. And we'll see that Well, let's go look at that. It's in Daniel 7. It describes, the description is there. I think it's in verse 24. Yes, let me just move that down a bit. You want to read that, Sister Teresa? Verse 24.
Verse 24. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will rise up from this kingdom. Another different from the previous ones, will rise after them and subdue 3 kings.
Okay,
He will speak words.
that's
Oh,
good. That's good for
what is
now.
that?
Okay, so what are horns? Kings, right?
Kings. Mm-hmm.
And in our modern time, a king, well, we don't have too many monarchies, right? And it's mostly democracies, and we have, of course, different types of government, but kings, that's more rare, but it's the position that it represents, a leader of a nation.
Mm-hmm.
So those 10 horns, he says, they're 10 kings. They're men. Each of these horns represent a man. And it's a king. It's the leader of a nation. It has a kingdom. Each horn has a kingdom or a country, right? And why just 10 horns? Well, who are these 10 horns? Okay. Well, the study is not about this beast, but I'll just refresh that quickly. The 10 horns are that beast here that is going to devour, crush, and trample. Who's that? Okay. And we see that this beast here, because it has 10 horns in this verse, I'll explain a bit why just 10. It means that these horns, each horn represents a country, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
it's an alliance.
NATO?
Yes, correct. Yeah. So that's an alliance of a multinational alliance.
Mm-hmm.
And the description of that beast with the, it's dreadful, frightening, incredibly strong, iron teeth, devoured, crushed. All of this demonstrate a military war machine.
Mm.
And there's 10 horns, but you say, okay, we say NATO. Well, why NATO? NATO has 32 countries, maybe a little bit more now. I think the last that I checked was 32, I think. But the 10 horns would be the 10 most prominent kings or
Mm-hmm.
countries that are in leading this government. Even though it's going to be one world government, but within that government, there's under governments, right? But all the governments make allegiance with this one world system, this global system. And, so the 10 horns are kings. And it tells us in verse 8, he says, while I was considering the horns, what happens? Suddenly another horn, a little horn, right, that comes up among them. So that machine, that war machine already exists. But there's an entity, a king that's not on part of that machine yet, of that beast.
Right.
Right? But it's going to come in, and when it comes in, it's going to take control of this war machine. And he's already demonstrating how he can do it by what he's doing in Gaza. Okay? And he may not be the only one, but he will come to take the place. And will, as we identify, that little horn, I think all, or at least 99% of prophecy scholars agree that this little horn is the Antichrist. Right? And so So this is the next identifier that we would use to identify who is this man. Once we looked at first that he has to be a Jew, and we could describe a number of things, not just any Jew, because a Jew born in the U.S. would not qualify. Would you agree with that? And would you understand? Would you understand why? So I'm just going to ask the question here. I can just stop sharing a little bit. So while we talk about this, why would the a Jew born outside of Jerusalem not qualify as the Antichrist? Again, the reason is always found in prophecy. Okay? And the reason is that he has to have some qualification or some things about him that qualify him as the true Messiah. For them to believe, he has to be fulfilling some messianic prophecies. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They also have prophecies, right? From the I think it's called the Tanakh. They call it the Tanakh, which is the Old Testament, right? The Torah is the Pentateuch, the books of Moses, and I think the Tanakh is the Old Testament with the prophets along with it, right? So they have those prophecies there about the Messiah, and so they expect a Messiah that's going to be fulfilling some basic prophecies of the Tanakh, of the Old Testament, and that would be the fact that what is one of the most important prophecy that was made about the Messiah, about his birth. Anybody know? I'd say it's the place of his birth. All right. Did prophecy tell us where he was going to be born? Let's go look at that prophecy.
Bethlehem?
In Bethlehem, right? Yes.
Yes. Bethlehem.
Yeah, I'll go find it. Where's the scripture at? I'm just trying to, what's the name of that prophet? Just hold on. Yes, and do you know exactly where Bethlehem is? Well, exactly. I mean, approximately.
It's in Israel, right? Isn't
Yeah.
it by the sea?
Yes, I think it's
Up
about
north a little bit?
10 kilometers from the center of Jerusalem.
Okay.
So it's a suburb of Jerusalem.
Mm.
So if we have a man who's born in Jerusalem, I think that's close enough, right? This would be accepted by
Yes.
the Jews because, Bethlehem is part of Jerusalem, right? It would be like a suburb of Jerusalem, and Sister Denise, where you at? You're in a suburb of Detroit, right?
Mm.
Or you?
I don't consider it a suburb.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So exactly. So you see Detroit, and somebody may say, "Well, it's not quite Detroit because it's not." I don't know if you're in. Are you in Mount Pleasant? No. Okay. It doesn't matter.
No. I'm on the east side. I'm really not far from
Okay. You're in
like
Detroit.
downtown Detroit.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. But
I'm really in the
yeah.
heart of Detroit, I guess.
Yeah, but somebody would say, okay, well, give a place. Let's say if you got somebody just outside the city of Detroit, well, they say, where you from? Well, they would say Detroit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And same with each one of us, our place, right? Well, where'd you live at? If you could be just outside of, not directly in downtown Montreal, but just a little bit ways of it and say, well, from Montreal, but it's not really Montreal, right? So the so if somebody is born in Jerusalem, that's close enough to fulfill the prophecy of
Mhm.
Bethlehem. Especially when they're just wanting to fulfill their own ways, the prophecy, their own ways. So that's why you have a Jew or somebody that converted to Judaism, that's an American or an European. Well, they don't qualify. And the Jews will never accept them. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that we said Jared Kushner cannot qualify because he's not a king. He's not.
Mhm.
He's not he's not a political leader of a nation. He's not a horn. Okay, so that's why we cannot have him. The other reason, well, that for example, we take people like King Charles, we can take people like Macron or Trump or I forget his name, from Turkey and all that, because I've heard some crazy scenarios from false prophets and it's you cannot have a Messiah that comes from another nation, and if he is a Jew or converted to Judaism, well, he's not a Jew. He's not a law or somebody who's an expert into their belief, the Jew
Right.
beliefs. So those are all
Mhm.
different things that the people totally omit to consider. When they are looking at who this man that Jesus spoke about. If another comes in his own name, you will receive him. He has to be a Jew. He has to be born in the Jerusalem area, and he has to become a governor, a leader of their nation, right? A little horn, a king of a small nation,
Mhm.
which is Israel, obviously. Okay. All right. So this is some ways to identify. We said, you know, stout, Sister Teresa. Let's go back. I'll share the thing back here. The right here, this thing back. Okay, and we are now looking at the stout. The word stout. And let's read that. That was in verse 20. I'm pretty sure that's what it may be. It's got different thing here. Let's read it anyway in the in this version there, the Holman, and I may put the King James. I could have shared it, I suppose, with the King James. I forget how to do this here. But go ahead, Sister Lisa. Are you there? I didn't share, right? Yeah, I just clicked it on for me, but oh no, I'm sharing.
It's on.
It's on.
It's there. Yeah, it's there.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let me just
Mhm.
Okay, what verse was it?
verse 20.
Okay. And I also wanted to know about the 10 horns on its head and about the other horn that came up, before which 3 fell, the horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke arrogantly, and that was more visible than the others.
Okay, that's interesting how it says more visible than the others. But
Mm.
we have, if I go with the King James, it uses the word stout. And that's, it's qualifier identified that not many people pay attention to. You know? But it's such it's a little detail that reveals a lot, right? I mean, well, first of all, you can't look at. Remember, I don't remember that some people were saying that Obama was the Antichrist.
I can't imagine.
Just a little guy, right? Just
Yeah.
this little skinny guy, and well, that qualify kills this thing. right?
Right.
And to be stout, I asked somebody one time, I said, do you think King James, not King James, but King Charles is stout? Somebody said yes. Well, he's not just stout. Let's read that again, Sister Teresa, please, in the King James. So the other one said more visible than the
And
others. But
hold
let's
on,
read this.
20,
Yes,
right?
please.
And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows.
See, there's a comparison there. More stout than his fellows. So he is compared with the people that surround him,
Mm-hmm.
or the people, either whether they're with him or the people that are in politics, like he is in government, right? And we know of whose God did reveal it to us back in 2022, and he fit in every single one of the identifiers given in Scripture, and that was Itamar Ben Gavir. Okay, do you know who that is, Sister Denise?
I do not. I've heard of his name. I don't know what he looks
All
like.
right.
But
Okay. Yeah, he's maybe I'll try to get a.
so stout
It means
is that
fatter.
stature, fatter? Okay,
Yeah.
I was trying to avoid the fat word, but
Yeah.
okay.
That's basically what it is, because when we
Okay, weightier, more
yeah
weighted.
yeah
Okay.
Bulkier.
to
Yeah,
be
there you
chubby
go.
Okay, yeah, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
chubby or
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
yes.
Kind of okay. But
So
height-wise, is there any significance of height?
it's not. It doesn't relate to height that much. Like the other people, pretty much. Not necessarily taller. There's some taller than he is, but he's got this hefty look
Okay,
of him,
okay.
and he's got the character, everything I mean, and he can be so nice, such a deceiver, but when things come really out of his spirit, like he's a murderer, he's a criminal, and he
Mm.
is in government. He is the minister of national security in Israel. If you get a chance to look at that, I mean,
Didn't you share a video?
of him.
Somebody did. Maybe it was James.
Yeah, I
Somebody
got
shared a
a bunch
video
of videos.
about him having his old friend from college and said that he was nice, but he had another side to him.
Mm.
Yes. Let
Yeah.
me see. I'll go on
You can
YouTube.
send that Sister Denise.
Yeah, I'll go to YouTube here, see if I can think I'll try that here. Okay. There's some easy things I can get here. About Itamar Ben-Gvir.
Now he's a minister, but is he trying to become prime minister or?
He will. He's going to become prime minister after, and he's actually holding the government together.
Okay.
Because see, when Netanyahu came, when there was the election in 2022, we followed everything, and I got a few possibilities. Anyway, and Netanyahu, they have a way the government is set up and the election is set up that if the government does not have at least 61 seats, he cannot be elected.
Mm.
But they have this law that they have 60 days to form an alliance with the other parties. Like if a party, exactly, does not have 61 seats because there's 120 seats in the Israeli government, and if the party does not win 61 seats, he's not in majority, and then he cannot be elected. and they have to start the elections all over again. But before they do that, they allow the strongest party to offer other parties to join with him and become the government in power. And without Ben-Gvir and his gang and Smotrich, which is he's the minister of finance now in the government, Netanyahu could not have been elected. His government, which is the Likud party, would not be in power. And every time Netanyahu does something that Ben-Gvir or his twin, that's his twin in spirit, because they have the same spirit, and this is why the more and more we look at it, it looks like he might very well be the false prophet. But what was his name again? I said Smotrich. Yeah, Bezalel Smotrich. And every time that Netanyahu's government does or says something that they don't like, they say, we're going to pull the plug. We're going to leave your government. And that means his government will fall apart and he will no longer be in power. Mm. So it is true that Ben-Gvir almost has the last word on everything. Because every time Netanyahu does something that Ben-Gvir doesn't like, he says, we're going to leave. Or either him or Smotrich, one of the two. And there were two separate parties. And of course, Smotrich was, I think it was called, I forget what the name of the party was, but he was the Zionist Religious Party. Something like that. Okay, it was a religious party for government, the government, and I mean he is just like Ben-Gvir, and they're the ones that just give orders. If you see an adult, you kill him, and if you see a child on a donkey, well, people ask him, well, which one do we kill first, the donkey or the child? That's the kind of spirit that's in there, and I wanted to share a post on that, but. Kind of been so busy. But anyway, who is Itamar Ben-Gvir? There would be, there's this thing here.
Ben-Gvir of Jewish power, previously convicted in Israel of incitement to racism and supporting a terrorist organization. Ben-Gvir lives in an illegal settlement in Hebron. Ben-Gvir's mentor, Rabbi Meir Kahane, established the Kach movement.
This is our country, it is not theirs. I want the Arabs out.
They must go.
He was committed to the use of specifically Jewish violence to effect such changes.
If I were the Minister of Defense, there wouldn't be one Arab left here.
Are you encouraging your people to go out on the streets and to attack Arabs as has happened in...
I call upon the Jews to do anything imaginable and anything possible which will encourage the Arabs to get out of this country.
Does that mean attacking?
Anything possible.
I want them out alive, and if not alive, dead.
Kahane's views were so extreme that the US classified Kach as a terrorist organization in 1997. And Kahane was the inspiration for Baruch Goldstein, another settler from the Hebron settlements who murdered over 20 innocent Palestinians in cold blood.
Goldstein's portrait still hangs in Hebron on the wall of Itamar Ben-Gvir.
אמירה מאוד מאוד מפורשת. כשהבן שלך בא ושואל אותך, מי זה אבא? מי זה האיש הזה שם בתמונה? שהוא צדיק, אני אומר לו שהוא גיבור, אני אומר...
In 1993, Benjamin Netanyahu became leader of Likud. As Likud leader, Benjamin Netanyahu demonized the then Israeli Prime Minister and Labour Party leader Yitzhak Rabin for signing the Oslo Peace Accords. In 1995, Ben-Gvir, the Minister for National Security responsible for the police today, appeared on television brandishing an ornament stolen from Rabin's car and proudly declared, we got to his car, we'll get to him too.
סמל הוא סמל, ומסמל שכמו שאנחנו הגענו לסמל הזה, אנחנו יכולים להגיע לרבין. כאשר ראש הממשלה עושה דברים כאלה חמורים, אני חושב שבהחלט אפשר לעשות מעשים חמורים נגדו.
A few weeks later, Rabin was assassinated. The death of Rabin led to the death of the peace process. In 1996, Benjamin Netanyahu became Israeli Prime Minister for the first time. And what he set about doing was the creation of a whole new generation of far-right extremist political leaders in Israel. Despite constant scandals, Netanyahu has been re-elected Prime Minister on 6 occasions.
לכו להתחמש. אני לא יושב בממשלה שלמעשה מרימה דגל לבן ומפסיקה את המלחמה. הזכות לחיים שלנו גוברת על חופש.
This is Itamar Ben-Gvir, who, following the recent resignation of Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz, has been demanding the Defense Ministry seat in the cabinet that was set up after Hamas's surprise attack on October 7. Ben-Gvir, an ultra-nationalist Israeli minister who is the head of the country's far-right party, Otzma Yehudit, has been arming illegal Jewish settlers in the occupied West Bank, urging many more settlers to rebuild abandoned illegal settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories amid Tel Aviv's brutal ongoing assault on Palestine's Gaza, and has even stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in occupied East Jerusalem under heavy police protection, seeking to realize Zionist ambitions to destroy the historical mosque and build a Jewish temple in its place. In 2022, the far-right rabble-rouser, then part of the religious Zionist coalition, emerged as a key player in parliamentary elections and attracted voters, helping propel Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who had previously supported other pro-settler parties, to victory. Ben-Gvir's popularity in Israel is a reflection of the country's shift to the right over the years. The shift, which is most noticeable among Israel's 1.3 million ultra-Orthodox Jews, has also helped bring Ben-Gvir's xenophobic, ultra-nationalist ideology into the mainstream, diminishing hopes of a two-state solution. As a teenager, Ben-Gvir opposed the Oslo peace accords with the Palestinians and infamously vandalized then Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin's car shortly before the latter's assassination in 1995. His views were so extreme that the Israeli army exempted him from compulsory military service in his youth. Ben-Gvir is a self-described disciple of extremist rabbi and former Knesset member Meir Kahane. Kahane's Kah party was banned and declared a terror group in the 1980s, both in Israel and the US, after one of its supporters, Baruch Goldstein, massacred 29 Palestinians praying at Al-Halil Mosque in Hebron in 1994. Ben-Gvir used to have a portrait of Goldstein hanging in his living room, and like his mentor, the late Kahane, he was also convicted of offenses that include inciting racism and supporting a terrorist group. Once marginalized within Israeli politics, Ben-Gvir's rise came after years of efforts to come to the fore. The media-savvy lawmaker gained legitimacy after he made a legal career out of defending Jewish extremists charged with violent offenses. Ben-Gvir, who lives in a settlement in the occupied West Bank, regularly turns up at hotspots in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and has become infamous for his anti-Arab rhetoric. Previously, he told public broadcaster Khan that he advocated dismantling the Palestinian self-rule government and annexing the occupied West Bank while simultaneously denying its roughly 2.5 million Palestinian residents the right to vote in Israel's Knesset. He also champions the death penalty and has frequently criticized Israeli security forces for not using adequate force against Palestinians. The 2022 elections shaped up to become a contest over whether Netanyahu was fit to rule amid corruption charges. Ben-Gvir's surge in the polls made him a central figure in Netanyahu's comeback strategy. The controversial politician first entered parliament in 2021 after his Jewish Power party merged with the religious Zionism party. Netanyahu had personally brokered a deal between Ben-Gvir and rival far-right leader Bezalel Smotrich to ensure they run together. Jewish Power, which failed to cross the electoral threshold in the 2019 and 2020 elections, is the successor to Kahane's outlawed Kah party. With Benny Gantz's resignation, Ben-Gvir's eyes are set on the reoccupation of Gaza, which means even more force could be used against Palestinians in the besieged enclave. In its all-out war on Gaza, Israel has already killed more than 37,000 Palestinians, including women and children.
He's best known for calling for the killing of Palestinians and the rallying cry, "Death to Arabs." He's led far-right Zionist mobs in Sheikh Jarrah, where residents were harassed, attacked and evicted, and repeatedly stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque. But despite his dangerous acts and ideas, Itamar Ben-Gvir has won big at the Israeli elections and is becoming a major influence in the country's politics. Here is what you need to know about him. The son of a secular Jewish Iraqi father and a Kurdish mother, Ben-Gvir first came to infamy as a teenager when he threatened then Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin on television and flaunted a Cadillac emblem he's stolen from his car. Far-right Jews then were unhappy that Rabin signed agreements with Palestinian leadership as part of the Oslo Accords. 2 weeks after Ben-Gvir vandalized his car, Rabin was assassinated. Ben-Gvir adopted radical right-wing views during the First Intifada. His views were so extreme that Israel exempted him from mandatory military service. Instead, he joined a right-wing youth movement affiliated with Moladet, a party advocating for a greater Israel, where all Palestinians would be forcibly sent to neighboring Arab countries. He later joined the more radical Kach and Kahane Chai parties that called for the nullification of Israeli citizenship for the state's Palestinian citizens. Ben-Gvir is a self-described disciple of extremist rabbi and former Knesset member Meir Kahane, who founded the Kach party. And even though the Kach party was eventually designated as a terrorist organization and outlawed in 1994, its racist ideology still looms over Israeli politics today.
He never since disowned Rabbi Meir Kahane or his legacy. In this passive regard, he's part of that racist legacy, but he was never caught saying anything like that publicly himself. That is why he remains within the political arena, and in recent years also much more firmly within it. Initially, he could hardly enter its margins, and then thanks to Netanyahu's personal involvement, he managed to enter the legislature.
In 2007, Ben-Gvir was convicted of incitement to terrorism and support for a designated terrorist organization. This led him to being blocked by the Israeli Bar Association from completing his law degree, but after multiple appeals the decision was overturned. And as a lawyer, Ben-Gvir defended radical far-right Jewish extremists suspected in cases of terror and hate crimes. For nearly a decade, he tried to enter Israel's parliament, but his party, Otzma Yehudet, never made it past the 3.25% threshold needed to claim a seat. His attempts at joining the right-wing Knesset list under former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett were initially quashed because of his long-standing support for convicted terrorist Baruch Goldstein, who in 1994 attacked the Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron, killing 29 Muslim worshippers. Ben-Gvir famously hung a photo of Goldstein in his living room, which he eventually removed to improve his chances of forming political alliances. At the advice of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he joined the religious Zionism slate with Bezalel Smotrich's National Union Party and became a Knesset member in 2021. That year, Ben-Gvir moved his parliamentary office to a yard next to a Palestinian home in the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah, where residents were being threatened with eviction by settler groups. He was seen leading groups of settlers in several confrontations with Palestinian residents. During his election campaign in 2022, Ben-Gvir made headlines after drawing a pistol in Sheikh Jarrah and calling on police to shoot a group of Palestinian protesters. He then proposed a bill calling for disloyal Palestinian citizens of Israel and anyone who calls Israeli soldiers war criminals to be expelled. An online poll held in August by a local radio station found nearly 2/3 of Israelis supported the bill. Then came a shock win in Israel's legislative elections. The religious Zionism faction, which now included the extreme anti-LGBT Noam faction, won 14 seats, making it the third largest party in the Knesset.
מבקשים לעשות הפרדה מוחלטת בין מי שנאמן למדינת ישראל ואין לנו שום בעיה איתו לבין מי שחותר תחת קיומה של המדינה היקרה שלנו.
Okay, so all right. So it's hard for us to imagine somebody being such an extremist, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. And there was something that he said in this last video, which is what I wanted us to hear, when he talked about that he was brought into legislation, right? Do we hear that?
Mm-hmm.
And that means he was writing laws,
Yes.
right? Legislation, that's talking about laws, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that makes him a lawyer. Well, he is a lawmaker. They call him a lawmaker. That's how they call him lawyers or whatever. Well, lawmaker, I guess, because he's into legislation. And this is one of the identifier of the Antichrist in prophecy. Okay? And we're going to look at that, see if I can remember where that is, but otherwise I'll just get it here. If anybody knows, but we'll look at that. Just give me a second here. It says that he's going to seek to change laws and let's see. I'm just going to go get my King James here. Oh, where is it at? King James. Let's see. Okay. I got some more. Okay, right here, and I will look at that. I'm sure it's in Daniel too. Change laws right here, Old Testament. Right, Daniel 7:25, exactly. So there's a lot there in Daniel 7 about him. Let me just share that again. We'll go back to that. So there's quite a bit there in this passage of Daniel 7. How do I bring this back? Right here. Okay. Can you read that, Sister Teresa, please? If you're still there? Yes. Okay. Verse 25. Yes. I can just make it bigger a little bit.
And he shall speak. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's well. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Let me see. So we can make it a little bit bigger right here.
Okay. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
Okay, so it's talking here about that he's going to think to change times and laws. I'm curious how it says it so to change laws, it helps if you're a lawmaker, doesn't it?
Yes.
Right. So and of all the candidates that were in the time of the election, I think there was only one. Actually, there was one that was replaced after the elections were done. That was actually a lawyer. That was into laws. I had studied in laws, but the other one that was also could have been considered as being more stout than his fellows. He was a farmer or something like that. He did not, work into it. He was into agriculture, not into into laws and stuff like that. He had studied in a completely different. So that right, even to this point, we're down to not many candidates, right? You realize that there's what is that one, verse 25? There's not that many. There's only a few Jews that would qualify as candidates for being the Antichrist. But first of all, he had to be a Jew, and then he had to be realized to fit in the narrative of the Messiah. Had to be born in Jerusalem area, or it was Bethlehem according to the Tanakh. And then we are now seeing now that he has to become little horn, into politics. And we see now from all these 3 videos we looked at that that's where he's going, right? He's going to, and he tried for 10 years to get into government, and he could not, but in 2022, and we'll read a passage here again in I think it's in Daniel 11. It's got a lot of stuff, but let's read this one here, verse 25 in the Holman. How does it say? You want to read that, please, Sister Teresa?
Okay, let's see. 25, right? He will speak words against the Most High and oppress the holy ones of the Most High. He will intend to change religious festivals and laws, and the holy ones will be handed over to him for a time and times and a half a time.
Okay, so that means he's going to make war with the saints for times and a half a time, right? So, which is the second half of the tribulation. You should change times, okay. All right, just change laws or change times. Okay, that's fine. And but it does say laws, right? So, okay, times, religious festivals, they figured that's what it meant by change times, but laws. And so this is a very important identifier. Well, how can you say, okay, Jared Kushner, well, is he a lawyer? Right?
Yep.
So I don't think he is, right? He's in real estate. So, but this guy has to be in politics. He's the little horn, so he has to become governor of a nation, and then he's going to be seeking to change laws. And actually, he's already changed a number of laws in Israel, and so he's right into the legislation. And so far, all these identifiers, he fits. You take anybody else that they have tried to imagine in the past, or even now, Trump and King Charles and Jared Kushner and I forget the name, but anyway, it's just some strange groups that are in the oneness movement. Ken Radjo and these guys are coming up with some crazy interpretations that don't make sense, that are leading the saints, leading people to the mark of the beast is what they're doing. Okay. Let me see. There was one more thing I wanted to show, and that's in one more thing, maybe a couple more things, but definitely we'll go to Daniel 11 instead. Okay. Let's see. All right. And we'll read that. Right here, I'm going to give a little history of what took place here. We had, you heard this when he talked about how they assassinated. You remember that Prime Minister of Israel who was willing to sign a peace accord or with the Palestinians, and Ben Gvir and his gang managed to kill him, and of course they could not prove he was the one who had killed him, right? Or it may have been somebody else, but somebody that was drilled by him. You saw this place where he was showing, and he even boasted about the fact that they had got to his car, and he was showing this this logo of the Cadillac that they had ripped off of the prime minister's car, and he said, "We got to his car. We will get to him." And a few weeks later, they killed him. And this here is a very important passage that, we had different governments, and then it comes to a place where the government here, not too sure if that was the one that got assassinated but he says, let's start in verse 19, just so that we can get to a context in verse 20. Go ahead, Sister Teresa.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Let's start with verse 19. And all this passage here in 11, it's all talking about people in government, in mostly in the government of Israel. Yes, go ahead.
He will turn his attention back to the fortresses of his own land, but he will stubble, fall, and be no more.
Yeah, let's keep reading.
In his place, one will arise who will send out a tax collector for the glory of the kingdom, but within a few days he will be shattered, though not in anger or in battle.
Okay, I want to just comment on this here. In his place, one will arise who will send out a tax collector or a raiser of taxes, right? And that is, we found out that this, when we start to get direction into who was this talking about, we didn't know. I had received from God in something in the spirit, and then we realized this whole context here in Revelation 11 was all about the election and the government of Israel that in our times. And the one who sends out a tax collector, or King James says he will be a raiser of taxes. It was the government that was just before this Likud party came in with the alliance of the Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. Okay, and this government was not Netanyahu, but Naphtali Bennett. Okay, and Bennett was qualified as being a raiser of taxes. And that's what he was accused of. All he did was, he did raise more money through taxes than the previous government did in 4 years, right? In just a few months he did that. And so this is, then his government of Bennett fell apart. And back in 2022, around spring, somewhere around there, April, May, and he says, but within a few days he will be shattered. His government did not last a year, 6 months or so. Through, though not in anger or in battle. So it was not that he was beaten, he didn't go to war or anything like that. It's just that people just abandoned him. And his party disintegrated. But here we will look at what happens, was predicted, and I'm going to explain something here. And let's read verse 21. Go ahead, Sister Teresa. 21, 22.
21, 22. In his place, a despised person will arise. Royal honors will not be given to him, but he will come during a time of peace and seize the kingdom by intrigue. A flood of forces will be swept away before him. They will be shattered, as well as the covenant prince.
Might as well read verse 23, and I'll explain those three verses. So I'll get into the King James too after, but go ahead.
After an alliance is made with him, he will act deceitfully. He will rise to power with a small nation.
And might as well go with 24. Maybe I'll see if we go. I think we'll probably stop at 24.
Okay. During a time of peace, he will come into the richest parts of the province and do what his fathers and predecessors never did. He will lavish plunder, loot, and wealth on his followers, and he will make plans against fortified cities but only for a time.
The one, okay. Go back. You can read to on the right hand side there, Sister Teresa. Started with just read verse 20. Just so we see where it says the raiser of taxes, right?
Okay. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. But within a few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle.
Okay. All right. So shall be destroyed, or the verses. But he will come. Just a minute. No, and it says, okay, few days he will be shattered, okay, through, though not in anger and battles. People just, it's not somebody that came against him, and we said this was Naphtali Bennett, and here, and after we start to get really close to the election and all this stuff, there's some a statement that was made, and it was recorded in the newspaper. I think it was in the Israel 24, something like that, or the Times of Israel. Somebody made a statement and accused Netanyahu of being a raiser of taxes, and then at that moment it was identified. Oh, look at what the scripture says in the King James, verse 20. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes. Amazing, how God can bring lines that reveal things so that we can identify what's going on, right? And let's read here in verse 21, Sister Teresa, in the King James, on the right.
Verse 21, King James.
Yeah.
And in his estate, I just read that one. Or did I?
Well, no, you didn't.
No.
Well, you read it in the Holman's, but we'll read it in
Okay.
Go ahead.
In his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries.
Okay, so this is nothing that happens just in one thing. This verse is not even completely fulfilled yet. Okay, and I'll explain why. But what I wanted to bring here, with all that we've seen, okay, in those videos, we find here in verse 21 says, and in his estate shall stand up a vile person. And would you say that from what these videos report, that this would qualify Ben Gvir as a vile person? With all the
yes,
right, yes, the wars and the extremes and you've seen him in place where how he's a criminal. He's just a criminal. He's just a terrorist, and he's he's for death penalty. He wants death to the Arabs, death to the terrorists, and all these things, and this is the mentality that's very strong in those Zionist people, and they say even every child is a terrorist, Palestinian child is a terrorist, and so it says us here that in his estate, instead of Bennett, who was the raiser of taxes, there's going to be somebody that's going to stand up that who will not receive, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, right? So he ended up getting in government, but not as prime minister. You see how this fulfills this prophecy?
Mm-hmm.
He gets into the government, but they're not giving. He had his own party, but he's not getting voted in as prime minister. But because of the way their laws are set up, it says in the because of the way the laws are set up, he was able to get into government with Netanyahu. Okay, and in the Holman said in his place, a despised person will arise. And he was despised, or a despisable person, right? And many people before the election, they were just afraid, especially the Palestinians. Man, what's going to happen to us if this man comes into power? He didn't come in as prime minister. Like it says here, royal, in the Holman says, royal honors will not be given to him, but he will come during a time of peace. Oh, and seize the kingdom by intrigue. Now, we're not in a time of peace, right? And it was not a time of peace back then during the elections. So this is where we know what there's going to be a time of peace that is coming, right? And this is what I say. This is during that time of peace that the construction of the third temple is going to begin. And there's been some posts, some ads. I wanted to make something, and I forget, there's so many things, but apparently the mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, is starting to crumble down, to fall, because underneath in the ground, apparently, there's some Israelis that are digging tunnels to make it collapse. Okay, so they're working at this, and you've seen in the videos that Ben-Gvir already transgressed. There was a law that forbade the Jews from going to the Temple Mount, or the Al-Aqsa site, and he did. I think he went 6 times already, and at one time he even declared, says, "Man, I would build a synagogue right here next to," and of course he has no intention of building a synagogue. He has the intention of building a temple, and all right, and so this verse 21, and I want to explain something here. Okay, he comes in, but prophecies that had been made as the one after Naphtali, Bennett, was going to be the Antichrist. Well, Netanyahu came in, but he is not. He does not qualify in everything. He's a vile person. He's the worst liars there is, but he does not have all the characteristics like Ben-Gvir. He's not a lawmaker, and he's not more stout than his fellows. So there's a few things that he didn't fit. Okay, and I don't think he was born in Jerusalem. All right, but Ben-Gvir was born in Jerusalem. All right, and so the thing is, the main thing with Netanyahu is that he was also before Bennett. So the one after him, after Bennett, will be, even though Netanyahu came after Bennett, but he was also before. So to the one that truly comes after Bennett, and only after Bennett, that was not before Bennett, is Ben-Gvir. But he's in the government, but he is not the prime minister. He does not have the honor of the kingdom, right? Or the royal honors, but he's in there, and he has the last say by his manipulation of, you don't do what I want, I'll pull the plug and leave you without me. And then Netanyahu, the Likud party, falls apart, loses the government. Okay, so that's how he does. But it says that he shall come in peaceably, but I think it is better here in the Holman's. It says, but he will come during a time of peace and seize the kingdom by intrigue. Not sure how this is all going to happen, or come without warning. Okay, well, come in a time of peace or without warning. Well, he's in the government, and how many people think that Itamar Ben-Gvir is the Antichrist? Do you know anybody else who thinks that, who believes that? Okay. Not many, right? And
not many.
Not
few.
many.
Just a few. Handful.
There's a few, yeah. There's a few, yeah, and very few, and this is, and of course, people are afraid when you think if you come up and you say a name. Oh, they've heard that before. but it's not about a name, it's about positions that he holds and about fulfilling every prophecy. As soon as there's one prophecy that the person does not qualify for, it disqualifies him for the whole role, right? And so this is just a section here of prophecies that I use to you go down the line of these prophecies, and he has to fit, a man. And this is why when I write some posts, I'm just saying, if somebody thinks they've identified the Antichrist, and I'll just stop sharing for a bit. I think we got a lot. And they got to ask those 3 questions first. Is the man a Jew? If he's not, well, he's disqualified. Second qualifier is could he be received by the Jews as their Messiah? If not, he disqualifies. It just came back to me, the name I was looking for earlier. The prime minister or king or whatever, the government leader of Turkey, Ed Rogan, some prophecy teachers say, oh, he's the guy who's going to come from Turkey. Well, can't. The Jews will never receive a Messiah who's not Jewish. Okay? And then the third point, is he prime minister of Israel? Or is he at least in line where he could be prime minister of Israel? And if any of those questions are answered with a negative, then he disqualifies. You got the wrong man. So those are the things we've identified. So let's just do a little conclusion here. I'm just going to write it here. Identifiers. Man of sin. Of sin. Let's see. What did we say? Jew, right?
Right.
Then second we said born in Jerusalem. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Stout was third.
Which one?
Stout. Third.
Yeah. Yeah. More stout.
Yeah, more stout.
Stout than his fellows. Yeah, we could say stout, but to be more precise, we
right. Mm-hmm.
Fourth, we say he has to be prime minister of Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or in line for to become prime minister of Israel. Right? So so he has to be in politics or in government, right? I'm just typing in and fifth, what did we say? There was one more thing I said. Okay, Jew, born in Jerusalem. No, I should say born in Jerusalem area. More stout than his fellows. Which one? What other one? Oh, vile. A lawmaker. Right?
Mm-hmm. Lawmaker.
Yeah. And then we had 6. Vile. Was there anything else that we identified? That's pretty well what we went over.
Okay. Yeah.
And in government, right? We said he's in government, but not prime minister, right? That's what I think Daniel 11 verse 21 says, right? There's going to be someone that's going to rise, but they're not. Well, but that's okay. That leads to becoming prime minister of Israel. So we don't. So those are the main things. So I'm just going to send that, right? Just whoops. Oh, I could have just put it like this in the best. Hold on. Let me see if I can just go like this too. Okay. I didn't realize this worked this way. Hold on. No. And need more stout than this, fellas. And Prime Minister of Israel. And of course, some people will say we're crazy for saying this because they have been brainwashed through dispensationalism and and Zionism and like I was thinking about your friend, their sister Denise, or your coworker. She may have a lot of problem with that because that's probably what her pastor teaches. They believe that no, those are God's elect over there,
Right.
So they can't. They have an awful time receiving this kind of teaching, and
Yeah, you have to get past that part first, and I don't.
Yeah. So
major.
So this is hard for them to come to a place to realize, Israel is not God's chosen.